Hey everybody, Dustin from Noble House Dog Training here. And today we're bringing you the first video in our Phase 2 series. We're going to talk about escape conditioning, the first step in Phase 2. But because it's cold and snowy outside, we're going to go ahead and do that inside. So we'll play with Senna and we'll see you inside in a minute. In today's video, we're going to be moving into Phase 2 and starting with the first step, escape conditioning. So when we're talking about escape conditioning, what we're going to be doing is teaching the dog how to escape an aversive we later want them to avoid. Basically, the simple definition of that is going to be to turn off a correction or a punishment when they feel it. The reason we teach them in a specific step how to turn that punishment off is because it's going to help them to not panic when they feel that punishment, and they're going to know exactly what they have to do to make it stop. When we're talking about escape conditioning, first we need to talk about Phase 1 and reiterate that everything you did in Phase 1 is still going to happen. We're not going to leave that behind us. We're just going to layer escape conditioning in Phase 2 on top of Phase 1. So the dog, everything going back to Phase 1, the dog has to understand the command that we're asking it to do in order for escape conditioning to work. If the dog doesn't understand what you're asking it to do, it's not going to know what to do. It's not going to be able to turn the punishment off, and it's going to panic. So if your dog is not confident in understanding exactly what you need it to do here, you need to go back into Phase 1 and work in Phase 1 until the dog becomes confident. So when the dog is confident, we can go ahead and move up into Phase 2. Before we physically move into Phase 2, we do have to talk about leash handling one more time. If you have not watched my leash handling video, go back and check that out. I'll link it in the description. But this is where your leash handling practice is going to really pay off. When you start working in Phase 2 with the dog, you're going to be trying to give the dog treats and rewards, pets. You're going to try to be luring it and pulling it in the direction you need with a little bit of leash pressure, at the same time giving corrections and leash pumps with the leash. And so you're going to be busy and there's going to be a lot of stuff going on. This is not the time to learn how to use your leash. As I said in the leash mechanics video, practice on something that isn't your dog and get good at this before you start using it on the dog. For our escape conditioning drill, we're going to start with the dog in the position we want it to be in. We're going to wait for the dog to break position, and when it does, we're going to start delivering our aversive correction. In the case of my demonstration, I'm going to be using just gentle leash pumps. We're going to start to deliver that correction the instant the dog breaks the command, and we're going to stop as soon as the dog goes back into the command. Now, early on, when you're just starting out with a dog and it's just learning what's going on, you may have to give it a little bit of help to get back into position. So in the case of a down, you might want to have your hand on top of the dog petting it, and the instant it starts to get up, you can use your hand to give it a little bit of downward pressure to help guide it back into a down position. If you're doing something like a climb, which I will also demonstrate, we might want to use a little bit of pressure on the leash to help pull the dog up onto whatever you're having it climb onto. Whatever it is you can do to help the dog get back into position quickly and easily, we're gonna do that based on the position we're in. So to reiterate, when the dog breaks position, we're going to start giving it corrections, and then as soon as it goes back into position, we're going to stop the corrections, reward as usual, and we'll repeat the drill waiting for him to break again. Timing is important in this. Timing is important in all dog training. And the timing in the escape conditioning, as I mentioned before, you're going to want to start delivering that correction the instant the dog breaks position and stop delivering it the instant it goes back into position. Now, when the dog does start to break position, you want to deliver those corrections immediately and start helping it get back into position. The further out of position the dog gets, the harder it's going to be for it to get back into position and turn that punishment off. And in here, the ultimate goal of this exercise is to get the dog to experience the correction and then turn it off. It needs to experience it and then experience it going away when it does the right thing. So the further the dog gets out of position, the harder it's going to be to get them back into position. With some help from Ziva the German Shepherd, I'm going to demonstrate the escape conditioning drill. As we talked about before, we're going to start out by putting the dog into the position we want using phase 1 techniques. Ziva, down. Good girl. Now, as soon as she's in position, I'm going to be ready to start giving her leash pumps as soon as she breaks position here. Working the down, for example, like we're doing here, when you're just starting out, if you have a dog that's not very good at staying down for very long, you're probably going to want to put yourself in a position where you can kneel down next to the dog with a nice short leash, and you're ready to help give it some downward leash pressure to get back into that down position as soon as it gets up. No. Good girl. Good girl. Good boy. So I'm ready. As soon as she starts to break position and try to get up, leave it. Good girl. Good girl. All right, so when the down. Good girl. Good girl. Down. Good girl. Good boy. Oh, down. Good girl. Oh, good girl. She didn't. Down. Good girl. Good girl. Now I'm going to demonstrate escape conditioning using the climb command. So we have our climb platform here, and I'm going to use phase 1 to get Ziva on the platform, and then when she goes off of the platform, I will start to pump her and tell her climb once again. Ziva, climb. Good girl. Now, once she's on the platform, I don't care if she's sitting, standing, laying, whatever she wants to do. I just want her on the platform. Now, once again, she's pretty good here, so I'm going to move around, try and distract her to get her to come off of the platform. And I'm going to have my leash just about tight and ready to start delivering her leash pumps as soon as she gets off. Climb. Good girl. Climb. Good girl. Now if you watch, as soon as she gets her first paw off of the climb platform, I start to leash pump her, and I also use my leash to give her a little bit of pressure back in the direction of the climb platform. Climb. Good girl. Climb. Good girl. Good girl. Climb. Good girl. Good girl. Good boy. Climb. Good girl. Good girl. Good job, buddy. Climb. Good girl. Good girl. Good girl. Good girl. Good girl. Good job, Z. Good girl. Climb. Good girl. Good girl. Good girl. Good girl. Good girl. Good girl. Ziva, free. All right, that was our demonstrations for the escape conditioning drill. If you notice, the climb demonstration was pretty much the perfect example of what an escape conditioning session should look like. You know, about 8 to 10 minutes long. I didn't edit anything out of that. I only sped up a few parts to keep the pacing going. So that is about what you should expect when you're working in escape conditioning. Thank you guys for joining us, and we'll see you on the next video.